I graduated in 1999, class of 1999. I remember that was when we would play that Prince song out. Tonight we're gonna party like it's 1999. I actually think Prince meant 2019, but we ain't gonna get into that. So that was a good time in life. Um, I vaguely remember, well, I didn't go to school, elementary school in Orlando. I went to school in an outside city called Ocoee. It was a little bit further outside of Orlando. And what I remember about Ocoee, it was pretty good. It was like, random, however, elementary school is. But the thing that really stood out for elementary school for me is I was one of the only black kids in the school. My older cousin, he was in a couple grades higher than me. So he attended the school as well. But then when he left, it was like one other guy. And his name was Michael. I remember that. And besides that, I think a little later, as it was almost time for me to leave, it may have been one or two other black kids. I'm not sure. But I remember it was really only like me and the other guy, Michael. And I also remember like Black History Month. Like everybody would look at me like I knew what was going on. I was trying to learn just like everybody else. Like I didn't know nothing about this. And now what's so funny is one time I went home and I was like, Mom, this girl called me black. And she was like, Keita, you are black. And I said, no, I'm not. I am brown. And you're yellow. And they're pink. And she was like, no, Keita, you are black. Like, I didn't even know I was black until they told me I was black. That's crazy. But I mean, we still got along and this and that. Now, it was some things like they used to really like make fun of my hair back then. Like in Chicago, you call them French braid. I would get my hair French braided. Down here, we call it cornrows. We would get cornrows in our hair. So back then, nobody really wore that but African Americans. And they used to make fun of me and be like, oh, she got them snakes in her hair or worms in her hair. And I remember one time where I was like, Mom, can I please take these French braids out my hair? And she was like, why, Keita? And I was like, the kids at school keep making fun of me and talking about how it's so amazing because they're trying to get through the maze and all kinds of stuff. And she was like, no, Keita, just wait. So I could not wait. At that time, like now, I think it is kind of a style, but I had like, it was a couple braids I could not get out. So I completely just cut my whole side of my hair down to where there was nothing there. Now, that's all cool. But back then, they didn't have hair like that. And it was like I would rather walking around looking like that than to have those French braids in my hair because the kids just would not let up. But what is so crazy now to me is all ethnicities are wearing French braids or cornrows or whatever, what have you. And it's like, it just wasn't like that back then. I would have been more, accepted if that was the case, you know, how it is now if it was like that back then. Okay, so moving along. Yeah, so anyway, we got along pretty good. I was a little rock and roll kid and pop kid and like we listened to that type of music. So I didn't know like in middle school it was a whole culture shock because my mother had put me in a all black school called Robbinswood. They actually nicknamed it Robin's Hood, which is crazy. But yeah, I went to Robbinswood and that's when I really first heard of hip hop. And it's so crazy. Like when I heard about it, really the first ones that I fell in love with was Crisscross. They were so cute. So I was just into the music because they were cute as ever. And then after that, it was Snoop Dogg. Oh my God. The first time I heard that 1, 2, 3 into the 4, Snoop Doggy Dogg and Dr. Dre is at the door. Yeah. Man, do you know I fell in love with hip hop right then. I told my aunt right then I was gonna be a rapper. That's crazy. Way back. But anyway, so in middle school it started out pretty good. But the problem was I was a skateboard kid, and at the time I did not have my own skateboard, so I thought I was going to make my own skateboard. You know, I was always making stuff. Like even back before when I was a little girl, I used to make my own Barbie houses because, well, really, we didn't have Barbies. We had gym dolls. Anybody remember gym dolls? If you do, give me that red emoji heart. You remember Jim, like Jim and the hologram? Girl. Anyways, so we had our gym dolls. And I used to make doll houses for them, like out of cereal boxes. And I would put little toilets in there. I would cut up the little styrofoam cups, and I'll make a toilet. My dad was a construction worker, so I would get old pieces of rug and stuff and tile, and like their houses were they was nice. And I guess, you know, I get it from my dad and my uncle because they were like my uncle, oh my gosh, he was an inventor, and he also was like a master construction worker. My dad, he is so awesome. Like he built like a whole house on top of our house. Like we have the biggest house in the neighborhood because he built all of that. And that's kind of how we ended up in Orlando, because like I said, Orlando was undeveloped. So him and my uncle and, you know, the whole family came down here, and they actually helped develop most of Orlando. My dad and my uncle, they worked on a building I remember called Peabody. I don't know what it's called now, but International Drive, they did a lot of work out there, downtown Orlando. He's done work for Shaquille O'Neal. He's also done work on the show Extreme Home Makeover. I think I'm saying that right. Extreme Home Makeover. I believe that's it. Yeah, like he did a lot. He is so awesome. So I get I think I get that creative side from his side of the family. So anyways, I made my own skateboard, and I do have a story time. It's not really a story time. It's like an audio book that I made called PrisonWife Chronicles that will be linked. You can go ahead and check that out. It's pretty good. I'm an awesome writer. I hate to toot like my own horn, but when I do stuff good, like I like to celebrate that, because I'm always telling you what I do wrong. Like I do a lot wrong, and it's a lot of stuff I just cannot get right. So if I have no problem telling you that, then I think is you know, I should also tell you what I do well, because what I do well, I know I do well, and it's not none of me. It's just gifts that I have. So I made my own skateboard out of like some roller skates, and I think I strapped like an old wagon or something to it. Anyways, I was playing with my sister, pushing her on the skateboard, and the skate part of the skateboard got stuck in a crack in the sidewalk. I went flying across her head and slid across the concrete. I had scraped off the whole left side of my face. I had scraped my chest. I had scrapes on my hands. I knocked my front tooth out. It was crazy. And I thought it was cool. You know, I was a tomboy. I'm good. I slapped a little Band-Aid on it. But the problem was when I went to school, like, girl, middle schoolers are the worst. Like, you gotta have yourself together, or in middle school, they are going to roast you. Like, they really just rolled me, and I was bullied. I was made fun of. When I would be at the bus stop, like they would throw rocks at me, and then they finally gave me a nickname, Scarface. It was so crazy. So it was like, I hated school at that point. I could not stand school. I loved when it was summertime and I just did not have to go to school, because I mean, it was like torture. And when I was not in school, I would just stay up in my room like for hours, days on end, just up in my room. And I just hated to come out. That was a very lonely time in my life. I used to all the time try to cover it with makeup, but then my dad would trip because he wouldn't allow me to wear makeup. It was just so much. And when what I could not cover with makeup, I would just try to either keep my hands across my face as much as I can, or if I could kind of get my hair to comb across my face and kind of hide the scars, whatever I could do to try to hide it. I went through all kinds of fade creams and I tried everything, but those scars just would not go away. So this slide, you see, I just went through a lot of sadness, depression, and isolation. That happened really 6th grade through 9th grade. So 9th grade, you go to the 9th grade center. And the reason it carried to 9th grade, it was a whole different school. But that main bully that I had actually went to the same 9th grade center as me. So that's how it kind of carried along. The only thing during that time that people actually would talk to me and even show any type of affection towards me is when they seen that I can draw. They was like, oh, you that girl that can draw. Draw me to, oh, you that girl that can draw. Like, that was my only claim to fame. That was my only thing that I had to show that I was still beautiful, was my artwork. Well, as I got to high school and got out of the 9th grade, then back then we had the 10th, 11th, and 12th at a regular school, and they called it the main campus. I went to West Orange High School. So at West Orange, it was a mix of like everybody. They had all kinds of races there, which was cool. So it was like we just had our own friends, and like I had all types of friends, and I liked it, that like being, you know, around everybody and all different personalities and walks of life and stuff like that. But during this time, I kind of got out of that Scarface phase. When that girl finally left and did not come to that main campus, like I started, you know, everything changed. But there was this one time, okay, I remember my mom telling me that we had went to Chicago to stay for the summer. And I was the baggy jeans, big hats, and like that was TLC. Like I wanted to be just like them. Aaliyah was kind of like that as well. So, you know, we all dressed like tomboys. So when I got there, my aunt, I'm gonna shout you out, Sabrina. Anyways, my aunt and my grandmother was like, what in the world you got on? I had on these big old, now other people I think call them tennis shoes, but in Chicago they call them gym shoes. I had on these big old floppy gym shoes, and it was like, they was like, So they did this whole makeover. And that's when I started wearing dresses. I started painting my nails, carrying purses. Like I cried before when I had to carry a purse. I was like, I cannot be seen with this purse. But it was like when I seen myself in the mirror, I actually kind of seen beauty. And I was like, wow, you know, I got a little shape and everything. And that's where my name Cadillac comes from. My grandmother, she was like, look at you, look like an old school Cadillac. Because you know how the back of the old school Cadillac stick out? Yeah, I had a little shape and everything back then. And I remember when I got off the plane and came back to Orlando, my mom was like, you're not the same girl that I put on that plane. So anyways, that was the girl that went into high school. So it was so crazy. Some of the people that taunted me now liked me. And I'm like, that's how, and actually I believe that time in my life, that's what made me so down to earth. Because I realized it is not what's on the outside. It is always what's on the inside of a person that matters. I was the same person, whether I was Scarface or whether I was this new Keita. Like, but people treated me differently. That's so crazy. So I graduated in 1999, class of 1999. I remember that was when we would play that Prince song out. Tonight we're gonna party like it's 1999. I actually think Prince meant 2019, but we ain't gonna get into that. So I graduated. And I do remember on the day of my graduation, I had a job interview. I had got my first job interview at a grocery store. So even back then, I was always rushing. I had my job interview, then I had to go get ready, and then I had my high school graduation. After graduating, oh my God, that was like the best time of my life. Like, though there's these couple years that you can always look back and be like, ooh, that was my life. I was getting my life then. And I would say it was 1996, that year I went to stay with my grandmother. And then I would say 1999, that was the year I was getting my life. I was out in the club. We were like church kids. We couldn't go nowhere. If it wasn't school or church, they didn't let me go. And my dad was like, you don't need to hang out at no mall. We didn't go to no mall. But that was because, you know, he grew up in the country. Like, they didn't even have a mall around there. But yeah, so I had to let loose. Like, I was going out. People was accepting me. And I was just having fun. It was a whole new world with people that didn't know who I used to be. So I started college in year 2000. And I remember I really didn't even want to go to college.